Doctors of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing a patient wouldn't admit? Nurse here, had a patient accuse me of shitting in her bed and threatened to sue me for malpractice. Keynote, she never got out of her bed. Nursing assistant here, I've been accused of shitting in the corner of a patient's room. She did it. Tried to blame some really nondescript man as the culprit after realizing no one believed it was me. I've also been accused of killing babies and burying them in a hospital basement. Okay, this one was kind of funny until it very quickly wasn't funny. Not a doctor, but a nurse had a patient come in with a toothpick in his penis. Refused to tell me how it got there, insisting he was picking his teeth, and it fell in. Ah, the old head on a stick. Being pregnant and also a virgin. People actually believe women can get inseminated in a public pool or after their parents had sex in the jacuzzi and the girl uses the jacuzzi and is inseminated by the father. What? I was once marked as pregnant by mistake when I went into the ER. They were talking about the test they needed to run, but they couldn't give me medication because of the baby. At that point I said, hold up, there is no way I'm pregnant. The nurse looked at me and rolled her eyes. I told her that I've only ever slept with women in the last couple of years, so there was no way I was pregnant. One of the other nurses reran the pregnancy test, and turns out I wasn't pregnant. I admitted a guy for chest pain. As part of the workup, I did a urine drug screen which came back positive for cocaine. After the rest of his cardiac workup was negative, I said to him, good news, you didn't have a heart attack. It's likely that your chest pain was caused by cocaine. His answer, I didn't use cocaine. See, I was at a party and people had some lines of cocaine out on a table. As I was walking by, an oscillating fan blew the cocaine into my face, which is why my urine was positive. Got it. Yeah, because parties with cocaine on the table frequently have fans near the coke. Obligatory, not a doctor. I'm a nurse. We had a patient come into the operating room for brain surgery. Probably a mid-50s guy with a nice head of light brown hair. Before a patient comes into the actual OR, we ask them a series of questions, including whether they have any implants, jewelry, non-hospital clothes on, etc. Guy says no to all the questions. After the patient gets put to sleep, the surgeon grabbed his hair to start shaving it off because, you know, brain surgery. And all his hair peeled off because he was wearing a wig and didn't tell us. We almost shaved his hairpiece because he wouldn't admit to anyone he wore it. Nurse here, had parents bring their 3-year-old son to the emergency department for 1 month of abdominal pain that kept getting worse. I asked all the routine questions for this complaint, lots of questions about his poop, is it bloody, diarrhea, mucus, when was his last bowel movement, any changes in the stool. They deny any other concerning symptoms but abdominal pain. We do blood work, ultrasound, x-ray, everything comes back completely normal, but the kid is intermittently screaming in pain, curled in a ball. Over the next 5 hours, I continued to repeat the same questions. I asked repeatedly if there was anything else going on that they could think of. Nope. The kid just doesn't seem well, but we have no reason to keep him. We decide to watch him a little longer, let him eat. The kid eats a bunch, a PBJ, apple juice, crackers, popsicle, no pain, so we decide to send him home. I bring in the discharge paperwork, and I'm about to start going over instructions, and the dad goes, you know, for the past 3 months, he's had a lot of worms in his poop. Worms. F***ing worms. You spent 6+ hours denying worms. I literally just turned around and walked out of the room without saying a word. I was laughing almost to the point of tears. Could not wait to tell my resident. Deworming medications, a shitload of wasted time, and they were on their way. Seems like Dad was embarrassed to have known and ignored it, so he wanted the hospital to find out on their own so that he could act surprised and save face. One of my lecturers told us a story of when he worked in ED. There was a man who refused to acknowledge or tell them how a jar got stuck in his rectum. They were taking him to the OR as it has created a vacuum seal and couldn't be removed without shattering, but realized his BSL, blood sugar level, was off the charts. Really, really high. They were considering postponing the surgery to work out what the fuck was going on. When he ended up talking, he told them the jar was full of honey before it got lodged and was rapidly absorbed by the rectum, causing the insane levels. What? Oh, bother. I'm a pediatric dentist, so maybe not the type of doctor you were looking for, but this one throws me for a loop every time, so I'll share it. When I said 8 kids, they have to be NPO for 8 hours before, so I always ask if they had anything to eat or drink in the morning. Parents never want to admit their kid ate or drank, even when I remind them it's very important because if they vomit and aspirate, they could die. Often they try to minimize it and say it was just a few bites, but one kid walked in eating a bag of Cheetos at reception and then the parent insisted to me that they hadn't eaten. Yeah, I'm 100% not sedating your child today. How stupid can parents be? Don't they understand the risks? We have multiple outbreaks of treatable viruses that have been curable, manageable for 40 years thanks to these scientific breakthroughs with vaccines, and you're asking if they understand anything. Obligatory not a doctor, used to work PR and marketing in an inner city hospital, was once hanging out with the ER folks when a regular came in. He was into self-harm. This would have been in 2000, 2001 or so, and I was young, so I had never heard of this. This guy had spent hours burying a Phillips head screwdriver in his abdomen, carefully working it around major organs. He was a Vietnam medic and had some training so he could feasibly do it. He straight up said, "What screwdriver? You all are crazy." The attending was staring right at the x-ray and the handle of the screwdriver sticking out of his abdomen. The screwdriver must have been 4 inches long. I still shudder. Had a patient in hospital. I forget what for. The point is that he disappeared for a few hours. When he came back, he was tachycardic to 160 BPM, massive pupils, couldn't sit still. We asked him what he'd taken while he was out. Nothing, he swears. He went to the pub and just drank lemonade. Okay, we say, we're going to take some blood and find out what you've taken. He then pipes up that the friends he was with would think it was funny to spike his drink. What, we asked, did he think they might have spiked his drink with? Speed, he says. What do you know? Bloods confirmed that he had taken speed, but he insists he didn't take it, his drink was spiked. Ah, the old speedy beer slipperoo. All my friends play this trick on each other. It's hilarious. Speedy beer slipperoo. Oh, I love that. I'm a nurse. I had a kid once who I needed to get a urine sample from. He was 8. I gave him a cup and pointed him to the bathroom. I went to check on my other patients and came back. Kid was still in the bathroom. I go knock on the door. "Hey buddy, you okay in there?" Sink on full blast. Yep, everything's fine." I go back to his room a few minutes later and he hands me a bag full of water with a cup inside that also appears to be water. I pour the water out of the bag. "Hey buddy, are you sure this is urine in this cup?" "Yeah, my pee is always clear." PT is wheeled off the x-ray. I checked the temperature of the so-called urine in the cup. It was ironically the same temperature as the water from the faucet. Come on little homie, you gotta do better than that. This one is sad, from my old roommate. Girl had a very large lump on her breast that she didn't tell the doctors about. She actually went to the hospital for migraines, saying they were getting increasingly bad. When they found the lump, they asked why she didn't say she had it. She said she knew it was going to kill her eventually, but she just wanted to get rid of the migraines because they were giving her a lot of pain in her last months. Did she live? I have no clue. Almost definitely died though. The lump was large enough that it was visible. I guess it's not super weird that this patient wouldn't admit this, but it's weird in the sense that it was super obvious what happened, so he might as well just admit it. I used to do patient registration in the ER. 2 of us were wheeling around our computers and registering patients off of ambulances and getting patient information in rooms. A middle-aged guy comes in on an ambulance and my co-worker takes it, so I'm finishing up some paperwork and I go to our front office and pull up the patient tracker board so I can see what still needs to be done, and a new patient pops up on the board. Chief complaint, eyeliner pen stuck in penis. My co-worker walks into the office looking scarred. She explained the nurse asked him what happened and he said he slipped. She told him that doesn't seem likely, so he said he had an itch and thought it would help. We later found from the nurse that he finally admitted that he saw it on TV and thought it would feel good. His 20-something-year-old daughter was with him, but she clearly had some sort of developmental disability. It was all round a sad situation. I hope someone told him about sounding and he did some research on safe practices for kinks fetishes. Apparently they were both lodged in there pretty badly. That they don't know how to read. I've been taught the trick of handing a paper upside down to them to see if they can read. It's good to know if they don't, so you can make extra sure they have a full understanding of their instructions instead of saying to read the details on the sheet. I've accompanied a blind friend to medical appointments a few times, and doctors are always giving her instructions in writing without reading the material to her, that she could actually see. We had this lady that came into the ER at least once per month, usually chest pain. She was 30s, morbidly obese. She had seen some multiple specialists, had her heart, lungs, GI system examined in almost every conceivable way. One night she comes in with sudden onset blindness. Not her first time with this complaint either. Last time she got a trip to the retina specialist. When I examine her, I walk around her bed and she tells her friend to get her feet off the chair so I can get by. She plays it off super cool by adding, "If you have your feet up like you always do." Come on. Then the neuro exam. I have her touch her nose, then touch my finger. Her idea of how a blind person would perform this exam is to touch her nose, then wobble her hand from side to side as she touched the end of my finger. Not to mention the near constant eye contact as we talked. I would ask a question and start moving while she talked, and she would follow my eye perfectly. She was extremely relieved to find out she had conversion disorder and that her sight would be back soon. This one happened just the other day. Had a patient come in looking pretty sick. Labs and vitals said the guy was in sepsis and most likely had a bad infection. The question was where. After some prodding and letting him know the seriousness of his situation, he finally admitted to the source of his infection. He didn't want to say it, so he just pointed between his legs. Looking underneath his underwear revealed a smelly, red, swollen, pus-draining scrotum. Some of it was even black and necrotic. Not a pleasant sight, and it looked horribly painful. He went on to explain that he had a painful lump on one of his testicles a few weeks back. He was told it was an infection and given antibiotics. The problem didn't go away, and by then he had decided to take matters into his own hands, literally. He tied a string tight around one testicle and proceeded to cut it off himself. Needless to say, it became horribly infected and was going to require surgical intervention. Guy ended up doing okay. Oh good. Well, it's nice to finish on such a positive one.